If anything happens with that local police department, then goes in and upholds the law. The United States Constitution, which is to say, you have broken the law. Now you will pay for it. And that is what their job needs to be. What? I didn't hear that, but...
We have a peanut gallery back here on the deck here.
All right.
He said law does not equal morality.
Exactly. Yes. And it doesn't. And that's the thing, is we need to put people in place that actually have a better moral principle, one that's just focused on liberty. If we can start there, where the idea of respecting and protecting someone's freedom comes first and foremost, that's your job. Our law enforcement personnel, they know they are putting their lives on the line for others. You doing so shouldn't be looked at as a threat. So if the police officer feels like they're in a threat, you're in the wrong line of work, you know? And again, those police departments, they are given, all right, you can go to one city like Pomona where crossing the street on your cell phone is an offense. You could be ticketed and even possibly jailed, okay? Or go to another city where the law doesn't exist at all. Or get shot if they think the cell phone is a gun, exactly. We need to stop all that. And the only way that we're ever going to be able to do it is if we can get some people to actually care about our community and is a part of that in these positions, and or fire them all. One of the first things I did as a dissenter and protester was get involved in the recall of Governor Gray Davis. And then I wanted to get involved in recalling Jerry Brown. So it's a matter of getting the people involved to change the system that exists, because for some reason we think that's what makes us a civil society. They don't see an anarchical type of society, one where it's based on just respect of freedom and personal liberties, is being one that's sustainable. I want to prove them otherwise through the libertarian platform.
I kind of feel like if we convince people to go to politics, we're trying to herd them in this one direction instead of encouraging individuals, like in a decentralized manner, to dissent and cause a ruckus. For example, like documenting your property on the blockchain. So when we got boarded by the Coast Guard, they gave us a form saying we passed all their inspection, and by the way, we are not registered. Our boat is not registered. It is an unregistered boat. We've refused to do it so far. It floats. And lost my train of thought here for a minute. Oh, but the paperwork they gave us, it says Homeland Security. And the marina that we're staying at right now, all of the sheriff boats say Homeland Security. So I don't really think that it is as broken down as we all want it to be, smaller. It's already gotten to this level where we need to, in mass form, individually resist the government to every level we possibly can while remaining comfortable in our lives. If you have to leave and then cause a ruckus from outside of the U.S., do that, but I'm definitely going to cause a ruckus as much as possible on my way out of this insanity land.
And that's what it should be. It should be left up to the individual to make their own personal choice. As to where I felt that way, I'm making a personal choice to where I'm saying, hey, I want to make that same change only through politics. And there's a great deal of people that believe the same thing, that we can make those changes through politics. So we shouldn't be forcing each other to do one or the other. If we came together, believe, what could that look like? And as an Occupy protester, it was sort of disheartening to where this one group that used to be anti-partisan has now become a big supporter of Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Socialist movement. Are you fucking kidding me? It's like a knife in the back. And that's what's happened, is we need to start galvanizing behind each other despite what our approach may be, if the outcome is the same. And we're still trying to achieve that if we can get together.
I think a lot of occupiers also left the system completely and became agorists and have crypto jobs. Maybe some of them, are still voting, but I think just as many of them, because I participated in Occupy movements, and I know many other people that did as well, and rainbow gatherers, they go to Jackalope, they go to events like this. They, you know, they are living outside of the system as much as possible. They've gone off grid, whatever, you know, they travel around nomadically, working as digital nomads. There are so many ways to compete with the current paradigm, and I would like to encourage everyone on this panel to do so. And yeah, I know, like, I know that you can change a lot of minds. I think from your perspective, you're going to convince a lot of people to become anarchists.
As I would hope to.
Yeah. So they might stop voting. So there could be like, there's a catch-22 there. But if people are individually making these decisions to resist, eventually, you know, the old ideas, it's already obsolete, and new ideas are already being created to continue keeping the old idea obsolete.
Well, I think we got to give up the stage, but round of applause for our three panelists.
Woo! We got questions. We have people wanting to do questions.
You're not going to take any questions at all?
Questions.
Oh, questions.
Yes, Q&A.
Can we do a Q&A?
Yes.
Is there still 15 minutes before the next speech?
No, there's less than 10 minutes.
Less than 10 minutes, so we got 10
Yeah,
minutes.
fast,
What do you
fast.
got?
We'll be swift. Here, take this one. You want this one?
All right, I appreciate the political route just because Ron Paul did so much with this political campaign as far as spreading a message. It's not necessarily about the winning per se, it's about being out there to get the message across. And I hope that you know, there's a lot of people who are they want to restrict the ways in which we approach it, like Margaret Rose is absolutist and very, very specific, almost somewhat ways. Is saying, hey, you know, let's limit the ways that we're doing it so that we're not, you know, violating our principles. However, I think any message that you can, you know, any way that you can, the tactics don't matter, it's the goal. And so the thing that I would say though is, I have an alternative for you rather than winning the government, you know, being governor. Have people start donating their money instead of to your campaign, to an investment in a trust. And this trust is essentially a replace government trust. And all the people that are afraid of getting rid of government, who's going to build the roads? Well, the trust will. And every single thing that people are like, oh, we need to have government for this, that, or the other thing. Well, you've got the money that pays for it once it gets to a critical mass. And with all the politicians that we put forward do that, instead of taking their donations to put it into this type of trust where the money then goes to, hey, wow, you know how much money you get if you get rid of your government in your area?
That would be great. I mean, I run a crowd-funded campaign, so I'm not funded by any corporate sponsors or any big-name donors, et cetera, but they've been few and far between. So for me to turn around and tell people, hey, if you think that your taxes actually pay the roads, it doesn't, you know, put it in some funding, they're not going to hear that, man. We need to show them through the system that exists that it hasn't been working this whole time. The amount of tax dollars that have been collected, it's not being spent on infrastructure at all. We can drive up and down roads here in San Diego, throughout the state. Just look at the California high-speed rail. You know, it's another trench of taxpayers' money where it's just being bled and bone dry pretty much at this point. So if we want to avoid black holes and money pits, then we need to get away from the system altogether, or else taxpayers are going to be stuck on stupid. I just got to be honest. We need an honest politician to get in offices, and that's why I'm saying as governor, first thing I'm going to do, audit the state's finances, see where our taxes have been going, and if it hasn't been going on roads, guess what? We're going to leave it up to the cities to take care of it themselves and stop collecting it on the state level.
Honest politician. Now there's an oxymoron for you. Anyway, you've been using two words consistently throughout your whole remarks: Constitution and taxes. Okay? Now, I won't get into the subject of does the Constitution have any legitimacy at all? That's another discussion. If most people accept the paradigm that the Constitution has some legitimacy and it has something to do with them, and it has to do with something called the rule of law. So under the Constitution, Congress passes laws that say things, and then bureaucrats are supposed to carry out those laws. Now, I want to give you a name, everybody listening to this, Dave Champion. He wrote a book called Income Tax Shattering the Myths. He's gone through, and I know there's a million people that have done this before, but Dave has done it better than anyone. He has shown that the tax code is actually does not tax 95% of what the IRS says it does. Okay, so here's the thing. Obviously, if you're an anarchist and don't believe the government has any legitimacy at all, this argument probably holds a little weight. But if you're one of these dyed-in-the-wool, flag-waving America, let's make America great people, you say, so you want the government to be committing fraud and breaking the law? Well, no, of course not. Well, then find out what the tax code actually says, and that's another wedge you can use to get people to understand, wait a minute, they haven't, all the taxes that the IRS has been assessing on them, they didn't owe them. The government, there's no law that says that. Okay, and I know Reuben Schiff went to jail for life, but the point is, all I'm saying is that there is a book called Income Tax Shattering the Myths, Dave Champion. He's out there, and yeah.
I'll be sure to read that.
And yeah, just
I got books stacking up, but
it just galls me that people say you got to obey the law. You know, you got to pay your taxes because it's the law. Well, no, it's not.
It's not at all, and I won't be saying that.
That's not a law. That's called.
Yeah, I don't have a speech. I have a question, and the main question is, how do we plan to accomplish all of this while the intellectual class has completely and totally sold out civilization? They have not changed for the better in any way in the last 20 or 30 years. And, you know, today, they're all these college professors are all celebrating Karl Marx's 200th birthday. Do we bulldoze the colleges, or do we just, I don't know, what you...
We unschool our children. Is there more than that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole, college is obviously it's a whole institution, right? It's wrapped into the banking system because of student loans. It's wrapped into the government policies because of federally backed student loans. It's backed into corporate infrastructure because they rely on degrees as some sort of receipt for an education.